Hello everyone. Sorry about the brief lack of video there. Welcome back to the stream. For those who don't know, I'm Fwib, also known as Sam, and I am going to play some TAC. It is TAC Tuesday. We're in the middle of what should be a couple of hours of people being around and looking for games. So let's hop straight into playtech.com and see if there's anyone who is around to play. Okay, no Seeks up at the moment, so why don't I put one up myself? 6x6, as that is my preference. One of those things about the Playtech interface is that you can choose a whole bunch of different settings. So I like playing with, I think, a 2 Komi on 6x6. Komi is the it's a variant whereby the player who's playing second, so black on playtech.com, gets an extra 2 points added to their flat count at the end of the game if it goes to flats. So it sort of helps to mitigate the first player advantage for white a certain amount. And let's go for just a standard 10 plus 20 second game. I'm not looking to play any blitz just to begin with, although Unsweet is looking for someone to play some super fast splits with the 1 minute plus 3 seconds increment. Let me just have a quick check on the Discord. Okay, yeah, let's go Unsweet. Blitz it is then. Here we go. And we're white, which is helpful to Komi, so it's worth remembering that. I'll just make sure that Unsweet is ready to go before I start, because blitzing and when your opponent starts without your knowledge, you can lose a bunch of time very quickly. So just wait a moment for Unsweet saying on the Discord, how am I black every time? That is a good question. And well, I'll just say that I'm pleased that it's not me. There we go. Oh, start nice and quick. I'm going to go for a more aggressive opening here, sort of not quite an edge crawl, but just try and get as much pressure on as possible, as that tends to be the best strategy in blitz. Just try and create as much mayhem, as many road threats as you can in as short a time as you can. So this wall's going to potentially be looking to block off any horizontal threat I'm making here, but I do have potentially, with my capstone capturing over to this side, or by just joining up here, C2 can capture up. That gives me more potential opportunities, but now that his cap has come down here, that is looking to probably mitigate the likelihood of me creating a road this way. That said, I think I'm in a position where I can just create the citadel here, so neither of these captures will immediately stop my road. I'm going to make sure that I keep some connection to the side there by capturing over the capstone. That also puts me in a position to free this captive on C2. And wait and see what's happening here. Okay, oops. Right, captures up, looking to obviously prevent me from winning that. I'm still going to make the threat, force another capture here. I'd expect him to actually bring his capstone down this time, as if he captures up with oh no, he went with C4. Obviously didn't see the attack threat. That's an unfortunate way to end, but such is the way of blitz. So I think that was shaping up relatively well for me in any case, but yeah, not quite the way I'm sure Unsweet would have liked to see it finished, but it was a fun game nevertheless. So who else is around? Oh, same again. Looks like someone's taken Unsweet up on that offer. So I'm going to go back and put up another slightly longer. Yeah, same settings are there, which is great. It remembers my settings. So yeah, I'm going to put up Seek for a more leisurely game of sixes, and hopefully there will be someone around soon to pick that up. In the meantime, let's take a little look back through this game, see how it developed. Like I said, this sort of A1 B2 opening is a little bit unusual on sixes. You would tend to start off. Oh hey Ali, how's it going? Yeah, we'd usually tend to start off a little bit more central. Or I've also been trying out A1 C2 as a sort of knight move opening. Oh, okay, Unsweet's joined again. Excellent. Cool. Well, we can. Wait. Nope. No, we didn't. Unsweet joined and then decided that I'm guessing the time controls were not what he was looking for, and therefore has resigned the game immediately. Just check if anyone's. There we go. Okay. Ali, Reed, you up for a game? Whatever time controls, Komi, you wish. I will take any challenge. And unfortunately, we've now lost the previous game. So, Abyssal Pluto, that would be an interesting one to watch actually, but I am here to play. So, hopefully. Again, I'm going to pop up another Seek, and we'll see if anyone is looking for a game. We've been sort of experimenting with different timings of Tech Tuesday to see when sort of people are available, when we can get most people online. It's relatively quiet tonight, as we're a little bit slightly earlier in the day for the US folks. Lucky man, Ali. I wish I had some ice cream. That would be excellent. It would be a little bit difficult to commentate and eat ice cream at the same time. Okay, Unsweet has again, I guess, decided that he's willing to play a longer game. Oh, jealous. That sounds really good. So we're going to start with a more traditional central opening this time, as the slightly longer time controls will mean that missed threats like we had last time are less likely to be an occurrence. So having a more solid starting position, more kind of influence over the center of the board, is potentially going to stand us in better stead. Okay, interesting. It's an early capstone from Unsweet, but it is in a very central position, and I don't have an immediate way to get this this white flat out of the way. So that's doing a good job of potentially cutting off what I'm trying to do north to south here. I think that I can start building horizontally, and that's probably what I'm going to do. But again, because this capstone is nice and central, if I place, for example, on d4, which we'll go for now, it's still in position to capture up onto d4 if he wants to, if that's where the threat ends up developing. Okay, obviously Unsweet seeing that threat of a horizontal road. My choices here. It's slightly tempting to put my capstone on B3, just because that both sort of builds towards the sort of 3 and 4 threat. Also gives the capstone 2 options to capture. Although neither of these pieces are particularly threatening, they might become so in sometime in the future. The danger, I suppose, of placing my capstone at B3 is that Unsweet captures onto C3, and then that leaves my capstone a little bit isolated, but not terribly so. Other option would be to place a flat stone at B3, or to do something like try and build sort of A5, B5, start building it across this way, or just continue with this vertical threat. I think I'm going to hold on to my capstone for now. I don't think that's quite a sufficiently juicy spot for me to put it just yet, so I'm actually going to play, I think, B5. Oh, that is not what I meant to do. A misclick. Cool. Unsweet has kindly allowed me to redo that one, and yep, place there. Okay, instantly plays C5. I don't want to spend all of my time talking and not playing, so I'm just going to continue to develop this sort of 4-5 region, I think. Well, I could tell you what, I'm going to play on C6, thinking being that it both is potentially useful for a vertical road, and it also allows me to threaten capturing onto C5 to complete a road between sort of A5 and F4 or something along those lines, if the opportunity should arise. So Unsweet's kind of mirroring along here with this road. That's fine by me. I'm going to just continue building horizontally there. This capstone is going to be a problem at some point, but that's inevitable. That's always the case in TAC. Your opponent's capstone is the main thing you have to worry about. So I think we're going to just have to get to the point where we force him to move it somewhere and then see how we can sort of best work around it. So interesting. He's got what he's trying to set up here, I think, is capturing onto either of these spots, C3 or D4, with his cap, and then eventually sort of move his cap to C4 and connect up this whole, these two groups, which does look like a pretty threatening possibility. But again, I think for now, my first instinct is to just place on either F4 or A5, continue to develop this threat. But both of those are relatively isolated on the edge. It's good to have an anchor point on the edges. But given that Unsweet has quite a lot of influence in this sort of central area, I also don't want to get too far behind on controlling the center of the board. So I'm actually going to place on C2. This does it does work towards a vertical threat here, and it also is a little bit more central and gives us an option should Unsweet's capstone end up fighting up in this direction. It gives us a little bit more to work with down on sort of 1 and 2. Obviously, he's Unsweet considering where he wants to go here. If I was him, I would probably be looking at either b1 or d6, potentially b6, in order to continue to develop his potential north-south threat. But he might be more worried about what I'm doing, so he might choose to capture, most likely with the capstone, or to place somewhere like e5 to sort of continue to mirror my road, or sort of this sort of pattern I got here. Okay, a4. That's not what I was expecting, but it does create a potential link on the A and B files, so I'm going to try and cut that off. And again, the nice thing about this is it's a defensive move. It prevents connection here, but it also develops my own threat possibility in that direction. I am, so on turn 9, I would like to find a place to get my capstone onto the board sooner rather than later, simply because the longer I leave it in my reserve, the more opportunity he has for Unsweet to make hay when I'm not at my full capacity. It's an interesting, a relatively cagey start here. Neither of us have made a threat yet. I mean, I can make a threat when I want to, playing c1, and that would force a capture, most likely the capstone coming out across onto c3. But we've both been fairly content to just develop our position, build influence for now, and try to create a... Okay, he does go for that capture now. Interesting. So I can also make an attack threat by placing on f4. Whatever happens, I expect 2c3 plus onto c4. Question is, do I want to move this piece out of the way and prevent that from happening? Most obvious place to go would be up to c5. Problem with that is it creates a liability for me. It means that I have one of his flat stones under one of my flat stones, which can later be released either by the capstone or by a wall or something along those lines. But he does have a very nice little position developing here if he does get that connection there. Takes c4. I don't have an immediately positive way to interact with that. So c4 plus. Danger, sort of possibilities for Unsweet would be to do something like then throw his capstone up onto that stack and immediately have control of that captive, or the ability to spread away from that captive. Excuse me one moment while I plug in my laptop. But yeah, I think I really don't want him getting to do c3 plus and just taking that. So I'm going to do this and hope, again, like I said, that I get a chance to get my capstone into this mix. So I would love to be able to place my capstone on c4. I doubt that's going to be an option, but we shall see. Yeah, the moves I'm expecting here are either that capstone getting thrown up onto c5, possibly a wall on c4 if he's feeling conservative, or even just a flat on c4, but I do not anticipate c4 being left unoccupied just because it's such an important sort of connection point for what both of us are trying to do. And if he does throw the capstone up, he will be leaving one of my flat stones on c4, but he will have control over it still, effectively, nominal control, with his capstone controlling this stack. It's been a well played game so far by Unsweet. I think there's the danger of the approach that I took of not being particularly aggressive as white, as it's allowed the black player to get more of a foothold into the game at this early stage, still only 10 moves in. But it's always a trade-off between aggression and kind of playing for the long game. We saw, for example, this afternoon, Doomsbeard lost to Greenie in the semi-finals of the beginners tournament, and that was partly on the back of an edge crawl on sixes, which is generally considered to not be the strongest of openings, simply because it can be shut down relatively easily, an aggressive opening like that, and that can then leave you in a position where you don't have enough influence on the center of the board. Okay, so it was flat stone on c4. Like I said, I want to get my capstone down if possible. The only obvious place for that would be e5, but that is open to d5 moving across to c5, and I don't want that to happen because that will isolate my capstone and allow this stack then to be spread across this way for a big positive flat count move and also a threat. So I'm actually, I think, going to capture over here. Now this is a relatively weak stack, got two liabilities in it and only a flat stone on the top. So it's quite tempting. It would be quite tempting for Unsweet to place a wall nearby. But this is a situation where having the capstone in my reserve still is an advantage, because it means whatever happens, I can place, if I want to, my capstone next to this stack to protect it from a wall or from being captured by another flat stone. And yeah, the main advantage of capturing d5 here is just that it gets that liability out of the way of Unsweet's capstone. And again, c5 now looks like a very nice place for me to put my capstone if he allows me to do that. In retrospect, I probably should have given us more time on the time controls. We're both down to just over 5 minutes with the 20-second increment, but that is a relatively large increment, so hopefully this will not come down to time, but I'm doing a lot of talking, and obviously Unsweet's doing a fair amount of thinking, so we're both chewing up that 10-minute clock as we go. But this is definitely an interesting spot. Like I said, I could see a wall coming down in one of these three squares in order to threaten this stack. if I were unsweet, I think I would just be placing a flat stone on c5. Because it does potentially threaten to capture this stack. Yep, there we go. It doesn't give me a nice place to put my capstone. And it continues to develop this sort of north-south threat that he has going. So now I can just make attack threat by placing it f4. That will force unsweet to capture. If he captures c5, I can recapture with d5, and we're in the same position again where I can then defend that stack with my capstone if I need to. If he captures somewhere over here, wherever he moves out of, I expect he'd probably try and capture a5, which again, still thinking about where I want to put my cap. I'm going to make this threat and, like I said, hope that unsweet gives me some good options here, but whatever happens, he's going to have to capture. He's going to have to capture with a flat stone. He doesn't have any meaningful counterplay with his own capstone where it is at the moment. I'm expecting a4 up, capturing onto a5, I think. I think that's what I would do, because again it cuts off this horizontal line and it also develops the north-south threat. I'm not entirely sure what my response to that will be, but it might also not be what unsweet chooses to do. Obviously it's tempting for him to take this, try and get hold of this juicy stack, but I am currently winning that capture war. I suppose capturing b5 would also be an option, but wherever he captures from, that's going to leave me somewhere to place my capstone. Same for doing... Okay. So he did find a way to use the his own capstone, but it involved leaving one of my flats behind here. What's the best way for me to punish that? Obviously he's got some nice spreads here, either taking this stack or spreading for the positive flat count move there. He can't... This cap is currently pinned insofar as he can't move it onto this stack. Otherwise I'll either place or capture onto c5. But something like capturing, putting both his pieces back up onto c4 looks pretty good for him. Although again, can't do that currently either, because I would just be able to create the road in this direction. I think it's time to get the cap down. I'm going to slam my cap on c3. That both means that I'm not going to somehow lose to something up and down here, and also I could potentially create a hard cap, protect this stack if he doesn't immediately come back here, which, as I said, he can't. And that could be quite a powerful position for me. Or I could do something like capture onto b3 and then threaten to capture back up. But I think, depending on what he does, my next move is probably going to be moving my capstone up onto c4, creating the hard cap and potentially attack threat. I can see the move here being the spread across onto a5 or just B1 to create that attack threat for him. At which point I would have to decide whether I want to abandon this stack and move on to B3, or if I want to capture with one of my other pieces. Is interestingly poised. There is also the possibility that I could end up building around the top here. Okay. Goes for capturing A5. That's not attack threat for him currently, but it does unpin the cap, which there's not much that I can... Well, I can renew my own attack threat immediately if I want to by placing A4, but again, this is another good thing about this move, is that does mean that he can bring his cap back down onto C4. I think I may have to just let him have D5 stack and do this hard cap thing. I don't have to, but that's what I'm tempted to do, because what I'm worried about is this capstone coming back down here, having a ton of really good flat count moves, and also sort of not isolating, but boxing my cap out of what's going on here. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I expect to see him now take the opportunity to, grab that stack while it's available. And I'm just gonna make a threat here. Hang on. Oof, no. I thought I'd given up Attenuate for a second, but I didn't. It was close, potentially, but not the case. So, okay. Definitely nothing happening for me east-west now. I'm going to need to be mindful of this thing. I think I'm going to play B1 just so that he can't immediately make attack threat. But I'm now looking to try and work something in this sort of vertical direction, particularly on this left-hand side of the board, because currently my capstone is keeping his capstone now away from that area of the board, so I have the advantage in that area. And likewise, he has pretty much total control over this half of the board, but this is where most of the interesting things have been happening so far. D3, interesting, okay. I'm gonna grab C3 before he can connect up there. Also moves me closer to my own road. Getting a little bit low on time, which is unfortunate, but it means we'll probably end up playing some pseudo blitz towards the end of this game, which can certainly be amusing. That makes sense. C1 doesn't want me to be able to create that attack threat just yet. I'm gonna place on D2. That both means that he's going to have to take D1 as well if he doesn't want me creating that threat, and it potentially starts building towards something horizontally along 1 and 2. Although, like I said, this capstone with that one black captive under it is in a pretty commanding position over this kind of area. Continues to mirror along there, doesn't want to let me dictate things with too many tag threats. I could make a threat by capturing either on c5 or c1, but I don't think I want to do that just yet. Don't think there's any great incentive for me to expose myself to that, because there are plenty of ways for him to counteract that. So, okay, that was a quick capture. Is he seeing something in particular that is good for? I mean, it establishes potentially a threat along this way, but it's not attack threat. I could pop a wall on d1, but as white with Comey, I don't think that does a ton for me. I'm just going to put a flat on d1. See how this develops. That liability, that's this captive here, is going to be there no matter what. So I don't need to, and we're ways away, looking at both of our reserves, we're ways away from a flat victory in either direction just yet. Okay, d6 makes attack threat. This way, capturing onto d1. How do I want to respond to that? This is a situation where playing that wall would have been potentially preferable, because I could capture up onto d2 without it being immediately recaptured by the capstone. But I think I'm just going to capture down to c1. That gives me full control of this bottom rank and shuts off, for the moment at least, that threat. e1 would renew it, and it gives me again a decent horizontal threat. Wouldn't be surprised to see him place a standing stone, a wall on c2, or just renew that threat with e1. But yeah, if I was him, I think I'd be putting a wall on c2, look to capture down, and then make a threat, sort of throwing across that way. Down to just 1 minute on his clock, so and 2.5 on mine, so we're both going to have to start playing a little bit more quickly. But the 20-second increment does mean we'll at least have time to consider our moves. We won't be playing blind, but 20 seconds is not a lot of time when you've got to count a full board's worth of flat stones. So if we get to the stage where it's looking like it's going to come down to flats, that is going to potentially be an issue. Hopefully Unsweet realizes that he's low on time. It'd be a shame to see the game end when it's so sort of neatly poised. But okay, yeah. As I expected. Expected it, that doesn't mean that I have a necessarily a good response to it, although worth noting that I will be able to throw my wall, sorry, not my wall, my capstone, all the way down onto C1 if I want to, once he captures, and that will leave a black flat here, but it won't be a, it won't give him an immediate win. So I think I'm going to put myself in a position where that, once I do that, I will be making attack threat. And that would be with either E1 or F2. I'm going to put it on E1 just so that he can't, use E1 instead to create a new threat and force me to capture again. But yeah, Unsweet playing almost entirely on his 20-second increment now. So he's going to have to do some quick calculations. Okay, captures on B1, interesting. That makes sense. I'm going to join up here so it, again, he can't capture this without me being able to make a threat. Wouldn't be surprised to see. Oh, ha! That was cute. That was very clever. I fell victim to one of the oldest tricks in the book, which is the miniature stack throw. Those little 2 flat stacks are easy to miss the ability to throw the top piece 2 places over to the right. So yeah, that was nicely done. That one may smart for a bit, but it was I think it was a very well played game overall from Unsweet there. I think it would be interesting to see how things developed had I noticed that, which I probably should have done. If I had done, I think I would have been maybe capturing over onto B1 with these 2 pieces, or even A1 onto B1. But yeah, it was not to be. I spoke too soon, moved too quickly, and did not kind of make sure that I wasn't intact, which is the first thing that one ought to do on every move, is just make sure that there's not a threat. Because if there is and you miss it, then you look rather silly, like I did just there. Anyway, let's it's 11:15 my time, so I'll probably go for another 15 minutes. Will be a relatively short stream today, I'm afraid. 15 minutes plus 20 against Abyss. That's going to be longer than a 15-minute game. So let's put up a seek for some blitz. Try and get one more game in at least before we go. I'm going to go for 3 minutes plus 5, so a little bit less hyper quick than the one we played against Unsweet to begin with. Did I forget to put Comey on that one? No, I did have do have Comey. That's good. Well, my rating is taking a little bit of a beating after these losses to Unsweet recently. But Unsweet is definitely underrated for how good he is, in my opinion. But he doesn't play a bunch of games against bots. So, oh, hey, Abyss has taken our seek for some blitz, which is very kind of him. This should be an excellent game. Abyss is probably, I would say probably unarguably one of the top 3 to 5 players in the world. I also very rarely beat him, so we'll see how this goes, but I'm not feeling super confident. And he's also well known for playing on increment, although, and so is used to playing fast, although he does that pretty much in every game, no matter the time controls. Just runs down, uses a lot of time thinking in the early game, and then plays mostly on increment for the rest. So at least he doesn't have the thinking time this time to do that. Doesn't get to set himself up perhaps as he would wish. Okay. I am gonna go here again, just trying to disrupt this pattern that he's got going on. I'm gonna have to start thinking about doing my own thing in a moment or two. Okay, first attack threat. I'm gonna hop up there. Sort of establish myself a little fiefdom up here. And he can't immediately renew that threat. So yeah, that's not a threat. So I'm going to start trying to do my own thing here and try and seize the momentum. So he can play F5 to make attack threat, or he could capture onto F4 or capture up, although that is not likely to happen given that my capstone is guarding this stack. Yeah, plays F5. Okay, I'm just gonna I have to capture something, and I don't have a ton of time to think about this. Options are obviously capture F2 or F3. Capturing up makes attack threat. Yeah, he's going to have the opportunity to place a wall either way. So that just gives me the best, most sort of cohesive setup. Continue trying to build around here, but I kind of expect wall on F4 now. As again, I don't have that capstone movement. I can immediately re-establish my threat. And a wall on F4 allows Abyss to start freeing these captives here and potentially making his own threats. Do I have any good counterplay to that? I'm not going to be able to throw my capstone over. I could capture up again, but that just creates more liabilities for me, and he can just plonk another wall on F3. So I'm just going to try and I'm going to have to figure out a way to shut down this. What's going on here? Yeah, do that by popping a wall here. So Abyss is threatening, or potentially going to be threatening, a drawbridge win by capturing onto E3. Okay, what this does, rationale behind D1, is it prevents me from smashing once this wall comes over, because then I'm going to have to leave both these flats behind. So I'm going to have to just play defensive over here. I don't think there's any way that I can sort of manufacture any threats of my own horizontally with all this that's going on. So I'm going to have to start, I think, building vertically. C4 might have been a good place to put one of my pieces just to prevent him from joining up here. But yeah, sort of need to start putting some pressure on of my own. And my capstone is in a pretty good position relative to his capstone, which is good for me. Neither of those capstones are particularly powerful. They just got a couple of enemy captives under them. But let me zoom in a little bit so I'm not looking at quite so far away. Okay, he's obviously noting and giving some respect to my potential north-south threat here. But yeah, like I was saying, the capstones are not super mobile at the moment, and mine is, well, they're both in quite defensive positions, I suppose you could say. He's now cut off this thing that I was building up along there. I am going to, and my cap is somewhat limiting what he can do down this side. Let's do that. I don't want Abyss to be able to join up too easily along this way to make a horizontal threat. So that's my thinking here, and it also, okay, I'm gonna have to, that's attack threat. So I'm going to have to cut that off. Again, like as I mentioned before, I couldn't have smashed there because the spread here creates the road. I would like to get that opportunity at some point, and I'll be keeping my eye open for, if that stack stays there, ways to unpin my cap so that I can smash and take control of all these lovely captives there. So Abyss, given that I said no to his threat up here, is going to continue building horizontally, which makes a ton of sense. I think I need to get something in amongst that. And now, for example, doing something like capturing up onto d4 or across onto d4 would free my cap up potentially for the smash. Still not tack yet, but it's close. Even so, I'm just going to continue placing for now. We do have a 2 Komi, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, interesting. I think I'm going to need to bring my capstone down. It's something I was thinking about also when I made this d6 move, is if I wanted to bring my capstone down, that creates some connection here and the potential for that to make a threat vertically. Okay, he's going to be looking to capture d6, I would imagine. Is there anything I can or want to do about that? I need to just play. I'm going to make the attack threat. He's going to capture onto d6. I'm going to have to capture probably onto c5. And we'll see where it goes from there. Yeah, because I can't place it. I'd like to place a wall, but I can't do that just yet, because he's making this threat. Oh, yeah, come on. There we go. I expect to see probably c6 here. I'll place, yeah, I'm going to slam a wall here. Try and hop over towards this little stack here. Okay, makes another threat. Cut that off. b6. Okay. Okay, takes the What's the flank I move? I probably should have placed on e3 there in hindsight. Yeah, because that lets him do that, which is very annoying because it means I can't now make another threat. I don't think that's tack. I'm just going to play something and figure out what I want to do about all of this. Okay. That was tack. Okay. Need to chuck another wall down, I think. I guess I could have captured over onto e6. We were getting pretty low on flats. What's flat count? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Too much. Too much. Okay. I'm going to try and start thinking about manufacturing a way to get this smash going. Bugger. Well, that was a disappointing way to end. I was just caught in a moment of indecision there, but it was not looking particularly good for me anyway. I think there were not many ways for me to prevent Abyss from manufacturing a victory on flats there. I think with a longer time increment it might well have been possible, but I think Abyss is too good a player to let that happen. It would have, what a winning line for me there would have involved something like taking this whole stack onto e6, then throwing in this direction, unpinning my capstone for the smash, and then some shenanigans around that involving the Komi. Abyss is offering a rematch. I'm going to say no, just because of the time. It is almost 11 o'clock and I should probably get to bed before midnight. But it was a lot of fun, that one. Some very interesting games. I don't think I played my absolute best, and I'm going to blame the time of the evening for that, although I don't think that's actually the case. But I'll take whatever excuse I can get. And yeah, we'll probably end the stream there. Short and sweet, just an hour. But I hope you guys have enjoyed the games, learned something potentially. I certainly learned things. Most importantly, check whether you're in TAC. And yeah, thank you for the games, everyone. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and have a great time, and I will see you next time.